Good afternoon. Here's another episode of Yummy Data Science. In a previous episode, we talked about the whole game of data science, which is what Hadley Wickham in his book R for Data Science, he refers to the data science framework as the whole game of data science. And to refresh your memory, I will quickly go over that. So this diagram shows the whole game of data science. And let's break down the components really quickly. You import your data, you bring it into R, or you ingest it in another platform like Databricks or Snowflake, or you Google Colab if you're using Python. But this video is about R, so we're going to restrict it to discussion of importing data into R. Then you tidy it up, and tidy doesn't mean that in the same sense we think of as cleaning a room, but it simply means that your data may not be in a suitable format for analysis. So you are rearranging it and to make it suitable. Then in this blue box, you have the understand rectangle, which composes of three things. Data transformation, so you might need to create extra columns. You might need to select a handful of rows. Then you're going to be visualizing your data. You might be using some econometric or AI machine learning techniques to model it. And so that is all part of understanding. And then once you're done um, with your data analysis, the understanding of the data, then you want to communicate the results. So having reviewed the whole game of data science, or what I call the data science framework, let's go over and talk about R and R Studio. So if you haven't heard about R or R Studio, don't worry about it. It's not rocket science. If you can speak a language and you can write down you can write uh, in that language, and you have read some books, you will be able to figure out what R Studio, and all these concepts that I'm going to be talking about in this slide are. So what is R? Well, R is a programming language. Um, and programming language means that unlike a human language like English or Spanish or Hindi, which is spoken among humans, this is a language that we use with computers. Okay. So in a nutshell, R is a programming language. What is R Studio? If you look that up, you will get a fancy word like integrated development environment. But what does that really mean? Well, so let's go back to our human language example. So you have English. Now you can write your paper on a piece of paper, like an actual piece of paper and pen, or you can, if you've heard of Notepad, which is a very basic text program, you could open that up and you could type it in there, or you could use something like Microsoft Word or Google Sheets. And what is the difference between writing down your paper in English on a piece of paper or a notepad versus using Microsoft Word or Google Sheets? Well, Microsoft Word can be thought of as an integrated development environment for writing your paper, because it will give you all these menus, it will break up your paper into various sections and so forth. And again, Google Sheets does the same thing. So back to R. R is a programming language, and of course you can use R without R Studio. Because you don't need, it's in the same way that you can write in English without needing Microsoft Word, but it just makes things a lot easier. Um, Now, let's talk about a little bit about R. And when you hear R, people will be talking about libraries and packages and base R. So I'm going to really make that very simple for you. Well, think about a toolbox. Okay. So you have your toolbox, and you are doing some repairs. So you have some tools that you always take with you, okay? Because you know that these are the most frequent tools and you'll need them. But maybe there are some tools that are more specialized, like say chainsaw. um, so think about the regular tools that you always take with you as base R. Now those are the code sets that always will be available to you when you open up your R or your R Studio. But, if you need specialized libraries or packages, and think of libraries and packages as units of code that are put together, um, when you need the specialized libraries, then you load them. So you put maybe chainsaw in the back of your car. So that's it. Base R is your regular toolbox. And then the specialized packages, the packages that you load additionally, are on as needed basis. Like if you need to cut down a tree, you take a chainsaw. The other thing you will hear a lot is that R is open source. Well, what does that mean? That means it's free. That means that users can contribute to it. They can obviously use it for free, but not only can they use it for free, they can also add back. Say, you start learning R and in a few months you get really good with it and you think of a brand new thing that you want to write up. Well, write your package and you give it back to the community. The third thing I want to emphasize about open source is that as opposed to the code running behind Microsoft Word or other proprietary software packages, our code is open and transparent. Anyone can look at it. And as a result, anyone can modify it in an attempt to improve it. The next couple things I want to say about R is, well, you can easily install it on your laptop, and it works with Macs, it works with Windows. In order to install and use R Studio, it seems logical that you'd first need to install R and then R Studio. And you can follow the instructions in your textbook, R for Data Science. And I have a link here as well, but it's in the introduction part. There's a link to install R. And once you're able to do that, there's a link for R Studio, and you can install that. Um, so now what I want to talk about a little bit is so we talked about installing R on your laptop, but is this the way that most companies work? And the answer is no. Companies generally do not allow you to install software on your work laptop, specialized software. They'll give you a base imprint, and that's what they want you to use. And there's a good reason. They don't want you to install things like Python or R or other software because generally those kinds of software also require the use of data. You're obviously going to use RStudio to analyze data. So if it's your work laptop, then you will also want to put data on it. And that data may be very sensitive. And so companies will prohibit storage of sensitive data on your laptop. Healthcare data, especially, is very sensitive, and companies will rightfully prohibit you from putting any sensitive data on your laptop. So then what options do you have for running RStudio? Well, you can use R on the cloud. There are cloud platforms for R. And don't worry if that cloud platform for R seems really weird. It is not. Let me break it down. So, and it has nothing to do with clouds or platforms, but consider the following example. I need a car, right? Well, option one, I can buy a car. But even if it's a reasonably priced car, new car, I might need to spend, $20,000, $30,000, and then I'll need to maintain it. I will need to have a place to park it in, and then, when it snows or ices over, I'll be cleaning it. Okay, so that's option one, but it has a considerable cost, and there's maintenance, effort to do maintenance. Uh, but I have my car for a long time. Option two is I can lease a car. And in this case, I can go to a leasing place and get a car for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And the money that I will put is not going to be nearly as considerable as to buy a new car. And I'll have a car for 3 years or that length of time. I'll still might, depending on your lease, I might still have to maintain it. Option three would be, well, I could go rent a car from one of those car rental companies. And I hear that there's even Zipcar where you can rent a car for a few hours. So, so think about the options for car. The problem is that I need a car, right? So I could buy it, I could lease it, I could rent it, I could even rent it for an hour. So, in that sense, putting R and R Studio on your laptop is like buying the car. Okay, you have to maintain it. You have to make sure that your laptop has enough computing power, it has enough disk space so that you're able to do your data analysis. Now, option two and three, you rent a car for an hour, is using a cloud platform. In cloud, it's a service where they will give you computers, they will give you storage, they will give you an environment that is set up. And no, it is not on the cloud. A company is maintaining that, most likely on a server farm where there are many computers. And the neat thing is, if you are not using your computing space, then the same resources can be used for someone else. Just like if you're not renting the Zipcar, someone else could be using it. So think of those services, the computer, storage, computing, etc., as available as a service on demand. And the nice thing about is the scalability. If I need a car for one, I can get that. They don't make a car for one, but with a cloud platform, if you just want minimal resources for minimal data for a small data set, you can get that. But you need a huge, um, you want a lot of data analysis done, then you can scale it. And the last advantage, pro of using a cloud platform is that data is safe. Many companies offer safeguards, for sensitive health data. And so, which is why that most companies nowadays use cloud platform services. Now, there are many cloud platform services, and the ones that I know, there's AWS, there's Google, GCP, Google Cloud Platform, there's the Azure services, and etc. Now, R runs on a cloud platform called Posit Cloud. Posit Cloud comes from the makers of R Studio, and they have set up an environment where you can save your data, you can run R Studio, and you can connect to data sources that are themselves in on cloud platforms. So Posit Cloud allows you to connect to other cloud platforms where you may have your data. So check it out if you get a chance. I'm certainly not advocating for Posit Cloud, but it's a neat it's a neat service. Thank you for listening.